Hi, welcome to Clearly Glass. Now this is just a quick video to explain the pricing for kitchen splashbacks and what factors affect how much made-to-measure kitchen splashbacks similar to this are going to cost. So the first thing to bear in mind is that made-to-measure splashbacks like this don't come in a big sheet that's brought to the job and cut and fitted on site. It's measured initially, and then the glass is cut, toughened, coloured or printed specifically for that job. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. The way that the pricing works is per metre squared. So you pay for the amount of area of glass that you need. And there's also a couple of other factors that affect the price. The first is the edges of the glass. So the edges need to be, the glass needs to be cut, and then the edges need to be ground and polished. Now this is charged per linear metre, so that's charged for the length of the edges, and that can be different depending on the shape of the glass. So if there's a lot of cutouts, there's actually more polishing. So that's an extra cost. And then there's also notches, holes or cutouts. So if you have things like sockets, that will require a cutout. There's a cost for that. If you require cutouts or holes for like an extractor, sometimes that's mounted on the face of the glass. There'll be a cost for each hole or cutout. Underneath your cabinets here, sometimes the end panel of the kitchen comes down further than the underside of the cabinet, and we'll need a little notch in the glass if you want the glass to go tight up to the underside of the cupboard. Sometimes there's also cables, downlights that also require notches, etc. under there. You don't have to do that. You could have the glass come along at the height of the bottom of the end panel, and then you wouldn't need to notch in. That would leave a little gap between the top of the glass and the underside of the cupboard. So it would be weighing up whether you want the extra cost or whether you're happy for the glass to go along at that height. Those sort of things would be discussed and finalised during a site survey and discussed with the customer. So that can affect the price. Another thing to bear in mind is the minimum chargeable area of toughened glass. So for small panels like this that go around boxing, also for little panels on the sides of windows or strips underneath windowsills, sometimes the glass is actually quite small, so it's less than 0.25 of a metre squared, which is the minimum chargeable area for toughened glass. So sometimes if there's lots of small panels on the job, it can actually increase the price quite a bit because you end up actually paying for quite a bit more area than you're actually getting because of the minimum charge. So that's something to bear in mind. Another thing to think about is the total chargeable area for a large panel. If you have a panel like this in one piece, the area is worked out from the full width by the full height. So sections like this that are cut away, you actually pay for these parts even though you're not getting them. So sometimes it can be more cost effective to have a join, sort of join here and here, and that way you're only paying for the area of the actual panels you're getting and not the wastage, and also not for the charge of the cutout to cut them away. So it's a toss-up really between paying for the large panel or having a join. The joins are very minimal. There's a join up here. They're just a straight line. The two panels are butted together, and it's a neat join, but there is a visible line. So it's that's up to you. Sometimes a join is required because the wall's actually longer than the maximum length that the glass can be made. So sometimes a join is required in any case. So that's the main things that you get charged for. The other factors that come to play is the actual finish of the glass. So this is a gloss colour with a reflective surface. So that's like our most common splashback, just a coloured splashback. But you can also have digitally printed, something like this. So you can choose any image. There's abstract images, sort of nature or scenery, beaches and things. Or you can have something a bit more unusual, artwork or something very abstract. The printed is a different price to the coloured. There's also satin finish glass, which is like a matte effect, so there's no reflection. That's a different type of glass, so that is a different price. There's things like metallic finishes, We've got sort of sparkles in glass. They're a different price per metre. There's also things like tinted mirrors, ordinary mirrors. There's antique effects, copper effect mirrors. These are different prices, so that will also affect your quote. You can also do toughened antique mirrors or toughened tinted mirrors. They're handmade, and the mirror finish is sprayed on individually. So again, they cost more than the non-toughened mirrors, but they're required behind heat sources such as gas, hobs, Ragers. So again, that will affect the price. So there's the main factors that affect it is the actual size of the glass, the amount of cutouts and edge work that's needed, any minimum area charges or maximum area charges, the finish of the glass and the effect, so the colour, whether it's printed, whether it's mirrored, or whether it's metallic. All of these things can affect the overall price that you'll get for your kitchen. We have done a little guide a bit further down on the post which shows some average layouts of kitchens with a guide range of prices for that type of kitchen. It's rough because every kitchen is quite different and there's different amounts of cutouts, different sizes of glass and things like that, but at least it'll give you an approximate guide. If you want a more accurate quote, you'd either need to provide us or wherever you're getting a price from with some approximate sizes. Photos always help, any plans you've got, and any finishes you're interested in, and then you can normally get an initial price like that. The next stage would be to actually come out and measure, take the exact sizes, the exact finish that you want, and decide on things like the joins and cutouts and holes, and then you get an exact price for your project. So that's really it. So if you want to have a quick look at the guide price, if you want a more accurate price, please get in touch. Thank you very much.